Hey, it's Jay Chatfield, loving yourself to life. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is brought to you by Grace Guidance, where we inspire you to heal and encourage you to love and live your life on purpose. I want to say thank you to everyone who is ordering my book, Shadow. I want to say that creating the book was an experience for me. And it started over a year ago when I was just learning how to confront a lot of the things that I was seeing in my life, a lot of things that was reoccurring, and I just wanted to get out of them. I kept asking myself, like, how do I, those were the things. And I'm going to give you examples because that's who I am. So I kept hearing, I was one of the situations that I was going to, and I do want to be careful because there were people involved, and everybody is not comfortable with other people knowing about them, but that's because they haven't confronted the things on their own. That's not my problem, but I do want to be respectful, but I do tell my people that's writing books with me that have stories to tell that involve other people. Yeah, it's great to have a conversation with them, but if they say no, does that stop your healing? Then you need to make a decision. Try to tell the story the best way you can without using names. But then that person will say, well, what if somebody we know read it? Well, if you don't like what happened, then change the narrative, change the things that you are doing. The outcomes will be different. If you take accountability and just handle your stuff, because this is what I'm doing, and I need to be able to fully tell my story so that I can be free from this. So I had some issues with people leaving me, and I would overcompensate. Like I would just go beyond and always try to put myself out there to try to keep those friendships. And even in my marriage, it was showing up. So I was like, why do I every year this would come up? Every time I turn around, it would just be somebody was trying to, they would take advantage of me, and then they would leave me. They would use my talents, and then they would be out. And like I said, this was happening all around me, and I couldn't understand why. So I started going to this year long class that was online, and I met some amazing friends that are my friends today. And I am so glad that I made that commitment to pour into my life. I've never been the same after, and it's been over 2 years ago. And like I say, I would not want to go back to who I used to go back to who I to who I used to go back to who I was. So part of it was taking a shadow work class or a trauma class. Like you had to experience something for this to come up in your life all the time. So I sat down and I started asking myself questions. Now, I'm a natural writer. I've been writing ever since I was little. I have published things from, middle school. I have journals on top of journals. We're in the process of moving, and they're not accessible, but I'm looking up because I have them on top of the shelves. I had two journals, right? One was the journal for the work I was doing at the time. And maybe I will read to you some of the stuff that I have in it. Like I say, I don't mind because I know that whatever I went through is to help others. So I don't need to keep it that close, you know. So just, and plus I've healed from it. So I had a journal. I had a few of them. I had journals for each thing, but I had a journal for the things that I was through, and then I also had a journal for the great things that I wanted to see on the other side of it. So that's why I have in the journal, talk about what's going on, how do you feel about it, and then what are your promptings on the other side, and then your affirmations. That's how the book is set up, because that's what I did. And my book is full because I'm continuously working on me. People be like, oh, that's tiring, but no, anytime I see a situation and I'm like, wait a minute, let me figure out where it came from. So if you haven't listened to my podcast, in my podcast, I talk about how I lived with my aunt ever since the age of 2 months, because my mom, who had suffered trauma growing up, went to get a better job in the North. So that's what they were doing back in the 60s and the 70s. They were leaving the, um, I don't want to say impoverished, but it wasn't really jobs for them in like Alabama, where my mom was from. And she didn't want to do, the land. She didn't want to be a farmer like her family. And honestly, my mom actually came out better financially than her siblings. So now she's retired and she has a pension, and it's just great for her, right? Living in two houses in Alabama. So she went back to Alabama, to where she lives, fine. But what happened was she gave up a relationship with my sister and I. So she will tell you, my mom will tell you, that everything's, you know, you know, she actually says that she did it for what was best for us. But what got me was I was given to my aunt because she said I had this really bad like chest cold, and they couldn't get in and they couldn't get rid of it. So my aunt healed me in the South, in Florida. But what got me was I was taken to my aunt at 2 months old, but my sister, my mom kept for 6 to 7 years to live with her. So I didn't understand that until I was like 12 or 13. So my sister's 6 years younger than me. Now, me and my sister were good. We're good because eventually my mom sent her to live with us. So now both of us is going through this thing of, do they love us? Do they want us? Okay, we got to do something about this. And my way of coping with it was that I made myself sick. And I'm pointing to my arms because I had hydroadenitis, and it would get my mom's attention. And my dad, when they would take me to specialists when I up there, and that felt good to have their attention. So I actually suffered with that for over 25 years until I healed myself. And that's another podcast. And I mean, I've talked about that too on my podcast. But what I'm saying is that when I went back to those emotions of abandonment, I was so hurt. Like this thing took me a while to get over. And that's why I have series in the book. Like, you might have to continue to go through the layers of what's going on, because that abandonment issue was enabling me to have great relationships with people. I had some good friends here and there, but I didn't have what I craved, which was like a family. And now I have that because I had to go within, and one, be okay with myself. The abandonment was only part of the problem. I just didn't like me on the inside. And all of that came out in 2015 when I was depressed and I was over 300 pounds, and I just didn't even want to do anything with my children, and it wasn't fair to them. It wasn't fair to me. My husband was in and out because he was in fire academy. So it was really a rough time, because guess who I was left with? Me. I was left with me. So I had to become comfortable with who I am and sure of myself, so that I'm not out here blaming people's. If you haven't dealt with something, I'm not going to take that thing on and think that it's my problem. So abandonment, abuse, I was whooped pretty bad when I was younger. So I had to get that out. I had to talk about that in my journal. And then I didn't have a therapist for that. I've gone to therapy, but therapy for me is meant when you don't really have a way to communicate the things that's two people that's going on, because we're social beings. We're supposed to be social. We've gotten in this age where everything's a secret and I don't want them to know about me and my life and those things. And that's fine if that's not what you want people to know. But if it's something that's hurting you, if it's something that's remember, you lie down with yourself every night. And one second, you're the one that's going to have to deal with it. So if you're not able to talk to somebody, you go to your therapist or your friends, you know, then what's going to happen is that stuff is going to build up inside of you. I love journaling, and this is why I created my podcast, because I needed to be able to communicate how I am feeling, or how I was feeling. And now on the other side of it, I like to tell people and help people through what they're going through. And my book is merely an aid. If you need, like, if you feel like you have to, or get some type of feedback or talk to somebody, yes, seek out a coach, a counselor, or a therapist. That's fine. I have those services where people just call me and they talk about things, and then sometimes they want a solution, but I'm always going to tell you to go back to yourself, because the answers are there. You have every answer that you could possibly have, but you have to clear the space for it. I don't know if you've seen my other videos, but I don't need the things that I used to need before I started working on myself. And I'm not knocking anybody or anybody's profession. I think counselors are wonderful. But most of the time, a lot of people just go to counseling and they leave, but they don't deal with themselves after. So I made the book for that. Now, if it comes to anything that's a little bit more serious, I advise you to go to a group, like if it's alcoholism. But again, that comes from something. So I would go and get the immediate help for it, and then after that, then come back to the book where it is dealing with an addiction or something like that. And I was addicted to work. Yep, we could talk about that too. Whereas addiction or grief or anything like that, you can do that too. You can, absolutely go and join a grief counseling group, or if you want to go and join an AA group, some type of addiction group, or something at church, or wherever that you feel like you will get the help that you need. But on the flip side of it, you're going to always have to face you. There's no way around it. I don't care what anybody tells you. You're going to have to be okay with you by yourself. You're going to have to be okay with those emotions. So my book is to aid you in that process. It's not to cure you, because you're always going to be working on something as long as you are on this earth, but it will help you to release baggage if you are open to it. And if you need help with it, I will be opening up a group where I'm only taking 5 to 8 people, so that we can work through the group, so that we can work through a few of the things. And I could tell you, you know what, this is for something. This is not for you. This is for something. You have to do this first. But most of the time, the answers are already there and we're ignoring them. So this is Jay Chatfield, loving yourself to life. If you want to get in touch with me, leave me a message down there, DM me, send me an email at graceguidance@gmail.com. Again, I appreciate you guys grabbing the book Shadow. The name of the book was not the name of the book, but that's what came out. And if you see a typo, thank you so much. I got to talk about me and my little I don't like the details. But I'm working on that. That's like work for me all the time. So if you want to get in touch with me, go ahead and send me an email, leave me a message. I would love to talk to you. As always, do something for you that only you will love. Have a love yourself day.